showtime, folks.
It's showtime, folks.
Showtime, folks. It's showtime, folks.
It's showtime, folks. Showtime.
Hello and welcome to Lunch Therapy. I'm your host, Joel Marshall. This is a daily show that we do at noon on weekdays, and we do it as a break from all the hell that's going on, all the important stuff that's going on, all the news, all the tragedy, and we just take a minute here to talk about some unimportant stuff, some whimsical things, and do some improvisational stand-up comedy. And we always start the show by taking 3 breaths. So we're going to do that right now. Just first of all, feel your feet where they are. Stick your toes into the ground so that you're grounded. And then we're just going to take in a big breath. And hold it. And then let it out. For those of you that can't take a deep breath, just take some air in and let's just all be glad that we can, because breath is life. Life is breath. We got nothing without it. Hold it. And then let it out. I'm feeling better already. Let's take one more breath. Hold it. And then let it out. Thank you all for being here. Those of you that are watching, we do have a chat room, and you can make suggestions. You can try and distract me, try and knock me off my pins, try and give me help when I need it. And welcome to Lunch Therapy. In the opening, we showed Roy Scheider in...
It's showtime.
All That Jazz. All That Jazz is one of my favorite films. It's a movie about Bob Fosse. And I think it's the thing that made me want to be an actor, because this guy was so cool, and he was so different from what I had seen him in. I had seen him in Jaws, perhaps. I don't think I saw The French Connection, but you got to see this guy that was just so versatile. Here he was, he was playing Sheriff Brody in Jaws, and then now all of a sudden he was some kind of dancer on Broadway in New York, and New York was just so foreign to me, and this was kind of my entry into that. We went down to the Edmonds Theater, my parents and I, and saw this movie, and I think I was way underage for it. But it just blew my mind. And I didn't know who Bob Fosse was, and I didn't know that Bob Fosse was directing a movie about himself, which is kind of weird, but fun. It was a very, very interesting thing, and I'm glad it was around. I'm glad Roy Scheider was around. He was a big inspiration of mine. On that note, we lost 2 actors in the last week or so. One of them we lost to the coronavirus. His name was Alan Garfield. Alan Garfield was known, I think, most for being in the movie The Conversation with Gene Hackman. And that was a Francis Ford Coppola movie. So that was a big loss. My memory of Alan Garfield is that my wife and I had a party at our house, and Alan Garfield was there, and afterwards, everybody left, and we were washing the dishes and, gossiping about people and doing that thing that you do at the end of a party. And we were doing that for like a half an hour, and then we heard this noise, and Alan Garfield came out of the bathroom. He had been in there we thought everyone was gone, and there he was. So that's a fond memory I have of him. The other actor that we lost just yesterday, and I just found out about this before the show, was Brian Dennehy. Apparently he died of natural causes. He was 81 years old. but he was just a force of nature on the stage and on the screen, and one of those people that just commanded a room. I saw him in The Iceman Cometh at the Goodman Theater, which requires a person like that to play the lead. And he was just a phenomenal actor. I think when I think of him, I think of this movie called Belly of an Architect. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it was one of those movies where an actor just kind of bared his soul and went to places that were probably uncomfortable to him and probably difficult to reach. And I remember it being a real masterpiece. Might be something to check out in the memory of Brian Dennehy, one of the greats. Moving ahead, on this show last time, we were experimenting with ASMR and trying to figure out, like, are there sounds that make us feel more relaxed? But we're not going to do that now because some people liked it, some people didn't like it. We might do it again in future shows. But there's a lot that I want to pack into this show today, and there's a thing at the end that I want to show you that is hilarious. But we're going to take one step at a time. First thing, I'm going to find another thing that might be relaxing to you. It's skateboarding videos. And I found this on the internet. This guy going high-speed skateboarding down a hill. And we'll just enjoy this for a little while I look at the chat room. I see Gina is in the chat room. It's great to see you, Gina. My wife, Kamala, is there. It was her birthday yesterday. Wish Kamala a happy birthday. She's having her birth week. I have some people from Twitch, which I love to see the Twitch people. Observer is there. He's got a sloth or something. Good to see you, Observer. And I see Jonathan Sposatos on Facebook. Don't forget that Roy Scheider was also in, wait for it, Blue Thunder. Yes. Movie about helicopters. Loved Blue Thunder. Forgot movie perhaps. I don't know, but not by me. Okay, so there's the skateboarding. I kind of find it soothing yet stressful. The sound is interesting. I don't know. I'm moving on. So, I don't know how you guys found that, but I found that kind of frightening. There's some stuff on the internet where I am just worried about the people who are doing this. There are people that are walking on tight ropes. There's a guy riding the ridge of a mountain on a bicycle. There are people doing multiple flips on skis and things, and I just wonder, are they going to be all right? Sometimes it stresses me out, but it is fun in the way that it's fun to watch like a horror movie where it's just totally made up, but you get kind of scared. And sometimes when I see videos, people fall over and I get this weird adrenaline rush, and I don't want to see that. I don't like that feeling at all. Sometimes when I'm doing my show, I feel like that skateboarder because we're just live streaming and there's danger and I could fall over. But it's really not that dangerous. It's more
question is how
like
do democracies respond to those scandals?
And what will it mean for the wider region?
Old
I think one of
Chestnut.
your children's just walked in. I mean, shifting
now
sands in the region. Do
all
you think
doing
relations
this
with the
sort of
North
thing
may
with
change?
the working from home.
I would be surprised if they do. Pardon me.
I love it when the woman comes
My
in
apologies.
and grabs the kids.
What's this going to mean for the region?
My apologies. Sorry.
That is always fun to watch.
South Korea's policy choices on North Korea have been severely limited.
I just thought I'd bring that back up. Next thing that I want to talk to you about is this. And I want to, I don't know if you guys are aware of Ye Olde Curiosity Shop, but this is something in Seattle for you folks in Seattle. And the question that I had, because I like to give myself questions for improv comedy. And you guys, I invite you to give me questions as well, not just topics, but also questions. You could even email them to me at mythclub@gmail.com. If you have a question that you want me to answer on my show, I highly recommend that to anybody. That's mythclub@gmail.com. My question for myself today is, have I ever stolen anything? So, since this is lunch therapy, perhaps, confessing if I've ever stolen anything, this is a good time to do it. I'm just going to get this off my chest, and it does involve Ye Olde Curiosity Shop. So here's this thing. It's called Ye Olde Curiosity Shop, and it is in Seattle. It's on the pier. Many of you know it. I actually went there when I was a kid, and it's so visually stimulating, this place. They got a mummified man in the back. They have many curios. Perhaps that's why it's the Ye Olde Curiosity Shop. They have all kinds of things, like they'll have like the Bible written on the head of a pin. They will have just every possible jumping bean that you can find. They have the mummified man in the back. Nobody knows if it's real. Some people say it's Jesse James, and they found him out in the desert. I believe he has a name, and I don't think it's Jesse. There's also a woman that's mummified back there now. It's just overwhelming. And I am not saying this as an excuse, but perhaps I am. But one day I was in there as a small child, and I was looking around, and they have their own Boney. Many of you know that Boney is my sidekick here at Lunch Therapy, and they had one hanging up in the curiosity shop, and the thing was, it had a sign that said, there have been 5 shoplifters in the curiosity shop, and the 5 was crossed out, and then it said 6. So that was like the skeleton of the guy who tried to shoplift something. And I was looking at bendable cats, and then I was looking at some other stuff, and then I was looking at something else, and then when my family, they're like, hey, we have to go, and we all ran out really fast, and then when I got outside, I realized I had a bendable cat in my hand. I had shoplifted from Ye Olde Curiosity Shop, and I remembered that skeleton, and we had 5/6 shoplifters, and my parents and I think my grandma was there, and they were like, hey, we got to cross the street. And I looked down at my hand, and I was like, what do I do? So I went over to the side of the pier, and I just dropped it in the water. Yep. So yes, I have stolen something. That's the only thing I can think of that I actually stole, like a physical thing. There are other things where I used to kind of be, I worked in a movie theater when I was a kid, when I was in high school. And I learned a lot running a movie theater, and because I learned when you're going to ask for somebody's ticket and when you're not. Neil Phillips says, that's not theft if you don't know you did it. That's true. Except when I jumped in the water. I knew I did that. So it wasn't always. So anyway, I learned I learned from being a ticket taker in a movie theater, I learned how to sneak into the movie theater. Yeah. And the way, I don't want you, no one should try this at home. If you want to sneak in the movie theater, you do not go in the back door. Because if you open up the back door, the guy who takes the tickets has these little lights that he can see when the back door is opened. So you're just busted. The way to sneak in a movie theater is to come in, get a bunch of popcorn, and drinks and walk up to the ticket taker. So, I mean, you've spent money anyway. But you walk up to the ticket taker and then you say, my ticket's in my front pocket. Can you get it? And no ticket taker is going to reach in your front pocket and get that ticket. And they're just going to be like, just go ahead. Just go ahead. So, and then the other way to do it is if you just walk in with such intention as if you own the place. You just walk it from the front door all the way into the theater. You just pretend that you own the place. And invariably, they will not ask for your ticket. I don't know why. It's a strange phenomenon. I don't recommend it because it is theft. The one other time I was in Century City in Los Angeles, and I was going into the movie theater. And another thing that I'd like to do, this is a big confession, and I'm sorry I owe the movie industry from these times, but what I would do is also I'd find a big family and I just kind of stand in the back and then they give them all the tickets and I just act like I was part of the family and I would go in with everybody. And then one other time, I happened to be fortunate enough in Century City that Quentin Tarantino was going into the movie theater. And I saw Quentin Tarantino, rather than be like, oh, wow, that's Quentin Tarantino. I thought, oh, that's a great opportunity for me to walk in unnoticed. So he walked in and they were like, wow, it's Quentin Tarantino. And I just walked in with him and they never asked me for a ticket. So there you go. Now he owns a movie theater here on Beverly Boulevard. I'm doing an advertisement for it because I owe, a good $20, $21 or something to these movie theaters. I'm sure to the industry that I am in now. So there you go. Neil Phillips says, there must be intent. You didn't steal. That's about the curiosity shop thing. And Neil's a lawyer, so I'm going with that. I'm releasing myself of any culpability in that situation. Thank you, Neil. Thank you for relieving my guilt. I'm wearing this shirt today I got this in Costa Rica. Monkey Mafia. It's a thing. It's cool. I like it. It reminds me of Boney. It reminds me of Costa Rica, which was great, which I want to talk about that at some point. And well, what the hell? My wife and I, we went down to Costa Rica last year, and we like to travel and go to like places where they have like yoga retreats and people being all, breathing. And as you've noticed, I like to breathe. I like to breathe a lot. I try to do it on a daily basis. So we went to this place called Pachamama, which is out there in Costa Rica. And I had never been there before. She had never been there before. It was recommended to us by our friend Benjamin, who knows where to go because he roams the earth like kung fu with a very small bag of items, and he sees all the cool places. And we went to a place in Thailand. We went to a place in India, all places that he recommended. So he recommended that we go down to Pachamama. That's a shout out to Benjamin from Camilo Lopez. Hopefully Benjamin is watching. Benjamin recommended this cool place. And Benjamin, though, is, pretty hip dude. And he said it's a place where they do permaculture and they grow their own food. And you go there, and you can go there and vacation. And there was a website, and I went right on, and I booked ourselves a trip to Pachamama. And we flew down there on a plane, and then little plane got us there out in the remote area. And we got in a taxi cab, and we drove there. And on the way there, the guy in the taxi cab was just having a good old laugh. Just laughing up a storm. And we were like, what's so funny? And he says, well, whenever people leave Pachamama, they always want me to take them immediately to the nearest pizza joint. And we were like, why? And he said, I don't know, but they must starve you there. So I like to eat, but, I was like, okay, well, we can do this. We can do it. So we got there. And it was like this in camp, and it was getting dark, and we went to the main office, and it was closed. So here we are in Costa Rica, out in the jungle. We were totally in the jungle, and there's nobody around. And we called this number, and this number that we had, and the person on the other end was just like, "Who are you? What?" They were just looked totally confused, and we said, "Well, we booked this trip to Pachamama." And they were like, "Ugh." So finally somebody drove over like on a 4-wheeler, pulls up, disgusted with us. I said, "Well, I don't know why you came on this day." And we said, "Well, that's when we booked the trip." And they were like, "Okay." So they took us to this place to eat. And it was like an outdoor place with like a thatched roof. And we go in there, and they gave us this just horrible soup. And the woman said, "You've really come on the wrong day, because today is the Festival of the Blue Deer." This is like a PSA for some place called Your Hot Mama, Costa Rica. Yeah, exactly. So, so we got there. So they were like, kind of like, we're at this Festival of the Blue Deer, and I don't know why you guys came on the Festival of the Blue Deer. And we're like, "What's that? Should we join in?" And they're like, "No." So they finally just showed us to our place where we were staying. And then the next day we go to the office, and we're thinking we're going to get some massages. We're going to breathe. We're going to do some yoga. We're going to have this wonderful permaculture food. And we get there, and it's closed. And they said, "Well, we might show up at like 1:00 because the Festival of the Blue Deer is still going on." And finally, we find some just cranky person behind a desk. And apparently they're hungover from the Festival of the Blue Deer. The Festival of the Blue Deer is apparently a rave that takes place on a river. And I don't know what they do out there, but they had some serious hangovers the next day. And so we tried to stay there, and there was events, and there was massages, and there were all these things that were advertised. But by this point, they were just irritated with us. We had a consultation with somebody about like why we were there, and I started to tell him, "Well, I'm here because I'm, searching for inner peace." And he was like, No. And I said, "Well, okay, fine. I've got like a problem with my forearm. Maybe I want to fix that." And he's like, "Oh, that's just tennis elbow." And finally, we decided, okay, let's do one of their extreme retreat offerings. And it was called "Are You In?" Are you in? So we sat down with somebody to talk about "Are you in?" And we're like, we're kind of brave people, and we've been there now for several days and done nothing. We went, there's supposedly a place where you sit silently at night, and we went there to sit silently at night and just think in this big auditorium where all these people were. But we get there, and there's nobody there, and it's pitch black. And we're like, "Well, are they not doing the silent sitting tonight?" And we noticed there's just somebody on the ground, just like passed out in the dark. And that was like the only person there. And they said, "Oh, well, I don't think we're going to be doing that today." So anyway, okay, we're going to do this thing called "Are You In?" And so we go and meet with this person, and that person was just so irritated with us. Because we had like some questions. We're like, "Well, what happens?" And they said, "Well, all these people come to this place, and they all get together, and they ask each other. They sit in twos. And one asks the other one, 'Are you in?' And then the other one talks for a long time. And then they switch, and that one asks the other one, 'Are you in?' And then that person talks for a long time. And they do this for 3 days. And they stay in the place, and they sleep there, and they take showers together. And we were kind of like, but still, because we were like, we came all the way here for this, and this is the only thing that we can do. We were still like, should we do it? Should we not do it? Should we do it? Should we not do it? And then we found out that the rest of the time after that, you could not speak. It was a silent retreat for the rest of the time. And we had booked like 2 weeks at this place. So that's when we realized we got to get out of there. And that was the scariest night. That night, all these people were angry with us. And in the morning, we were going to ask for our money back. So the next morning, we asked for our money back. And, of course, they were livid and didn't want to give the money back. But I tried to find a way in. Because with people, you know, when they have their kind of communities or their cults or their places where they're all kind of like bonded together and you're kind of an outsider, you have to kind of speak their language. So I said to them, I just don't think we can support the community in the way that it needs to be supported. And that was enough for them to give me my money back. And it's lucky that I said that in time, because right as she pushed the button for me to get the refund, all the power went out. And I said to her, what just happened? And they said, oh, the power just went out because we're having the Festival of the Blue Deer. They were doing another one, just like days later. I guess this is just, I don't know. I mean, maybe I was there on the wrong day, because Benjamin said it was great when he was there. But when we were there, it was just a tripping balls festival. That's what it was. Honestly. Okay, I got a couple more things for you today. I'm going to go a little bit over time. Oh, no, we won't. Well, we got 2 minutes. I got this one thing that I'm going to show you, and it's just a clip from something that I find hilarious. And it's from this guy called Maestro Zilkos. And I'm just going to show you a little bit of it, because I want to invite you to go to his website. He's got, a Patreon thing where you can donate to him, because he is like a virtuoso. Oftentimes on this show, I highlight a busker, somebody who is covering a song, maybe out in the streets, or maybe they've written their own song and they're covering it there. This is another busking situation, but kind of an inadvertent busking. So here we go.
Mama just killed a man, put a gun against his head, pulled my trigger, now he's dead. Goodbye, everybody.
Okay,
I've got to go.
it's really good out here.
Illegal figure, magnifico. I'm just a poor boy, nobody loves me.
He's just a poor boy from a poor family, sparing his life from his monstrosity.
Easy come, easy go, will you let me go? Build a wall, no, we will not let you go. Build a wall, we will not let you go. Build a wall, we will not let you go. Let me go, we'll not let you go. Let me go, we'll not let you go. Let me go. No. Mamma mia, mamma mia, mamma mia, let me go. Beelzebub has the devil put aside for me, for me, for me. So you think you can stone me and sing my life? So you think you can love me and leave me to die? Oh, baby.
Okay, regretfully, I have to end that, because I want you guys to go to that guy's site and look at that thing. But Maestro Zilkos, he is our showcase today on Lunch Therapy. Thanks for joining me today. Tomorrow, we have Interview Friday. In Interview Friday, we interview somebody. Tomorrow, we've got a very special guest. Jeff Lohman will be visiting us today, or tomorrow. And he's talking to me all the way from Kuwait. A lot of you know him. Join us here tomorrow. for more lunch therapy.
Let me go. The angel has a devil put aside for me.